Hey, this is Nick. Thank you for watching this video. Today I want to share with you some tips and thoughts about sitting, but sitting on the floor. Normally we're sitting in chairs, and this is about sitting on the floor and meditation postures and how we can avoid some of the discomfort and some of the aches and pains that we feel as a result of sitting on the floor. And one of the reasons we do is because we don't spend enough time sitting on the floor. It's so important that we do these natural movements, squatting, sitting. So we're introducing a variety of natural movements. And if you think about it, as kids, we were all sitting on the floor. We loved playing on the floor, being close to nature. Many indigenous tribes and cultures sit on the floor. So I'm just going to take you through some thoughts and what's really worked for me and what really helps me. And it's about using the body in accordance with its natural design, working with gravity and working with the deep bone strength and integrity of the spine, so we feel comfortably erect, so we're not feeling that we're having to do anything. And when we're sitting well, and when you see children sitting well, they're not really having to. There's no pressure, there's no effort. And we can use the body effortlessly, but it takes practice. And most of what we do involves repetitive, sort of repeated habits that cause lots of compression and tension. So from the perspective of the Alexander technique, which I teach, and I practice meditation as well, is that this head balance is really important. The head balance in relation to the spine is critical. So the head governs and coordinates the entire coordination of the body, and it influences the structure and the integrity of the body. So when the head goes off balance, there's a downward pressure on the joints and the discs and the muscles. There's not an even antagonistic pull and tonus to the muscles. It squashes the organs, limits the breath. So it's really important that we start to awaken the spine. And there's other ways of doing that, but I'm not going to show them in this video. But just for the purpose of sitting, I'm going to talk about that. So when most people sit, we tend to sort of slump a little bit backwards, and the knees tend to be a bit higher than the hips. So one of the first things we want to do is slightly elevate the spine. That can be done with a block or a cushion. I tend to just use a cushion, making sure you've got a carpeted floor. So, because the knees and the ankles, the knees, they can feel that pressure on the floor, and it can just block the energy and block the circulation, so we feel pins and needles and tightness there. So often like a blanket, you can probably see I'm sitting on a blanket. And now you can probably see that when I sit on this cushion, my hip bones are higher than the knees. So that's really important. And the sit bones, if you're not sure where they are, you can just pull the flesh away from the buttocks, and you can just allow the buttocks just to sink into the hand. You should feel two bones there. They're like the feet of the spine. They're your second pair of feet. So that's really important, is to really allow the weight to sink into those sit bones. So it's almost like you'll feel a weight in the buttocks, so that very solid foundation. But as a result of feeling that very solid weighted foundation in the sit bones, and the spine is comfortably erect. So basically, you're not going to be, if you're sitting with that support, and often the wedge is really good, a yoga block, to just wedge underneath, so you get that slight inclination forward, the slight forward tilt of the pelvis. But we don't want to hyperextend the back. We don't want to collapse the back. We're looking for that comfortable, erect spine, and where the head is floating up on top of the tip of the spine. So that's a block or a cushion. And again, where the feet go, you don't want too much of a stretch or bending in the ankles. See if the feet can just remain comfortable there. Sometimes cushions under the knees can be really helpful. And again, if you've got cushions under the knees, making sure you elevate the spine. So that's really important. And you have to play around with it. Don't get attached to thinking that it's got to be a perfect posture. You've got to have perfect cushions. Some people use meditation stools, and just play with it. And it takes a lot of practice to start to feel peaceful. One of the biggest obstacles to sitting peacefully and silently in meditation, or if you have a practice, is the body not feeling comfortable. So it does take some practice. Again, sitting on blocks like this is I find really comfortable. I've noticed meditating with lots of other meditators, they find that really comfortable because it elevates the spine, and we feel a sense of openness up here. So it's like we extending and lengthening all the way through the torso. Where do the hands go? Well, that's entirely up to you. The sitting practice for meditation is quite a personal thing, and it's whatever works for you that can be like that. I often just let my hands just sit comfortably in my lap. The shoulders are not pulling down. Maybe if they're too far out, there can be that tendency for the shoulders to just pull in a little bit. So the shoulders gently open. And again, the sitting bones releasing. The spine is designed to go up against, it's designed to release up against that force of gravity. So when the weight's dropping into the sit bones, we can almost access that the inbuilt anti-postural gravity muscles. So when I say the anti-gravitational postural muscles will help to take the spine up. And they're the intrinsic core muscles. Those more external muscles, the fast twitch muscles, the action muscles, they can switch off and go into neutral. So we don't feel so fatigued. It's those being muscles. And those being muscles are just there when we're just sitting, and they are designed, they don't get so fatigued so quickly. So that's really a comfortable way to sit. And again, there's always the full lotus. I will demonstrate it, but I generally don't sit in full lotus. It's just one foot in front of the other. See if you can practice just sitting comfortably for a few minutes every day. Sitting on the floor, it's such a healthy way to sit, and it really opens out the hips. You can see my hips are really nicely open, and again, I would have a block there. I think the eyes are really important because they affect the balance. Sometimes we can get very concentrated on whatever we're using to focus the mind. It can be the breath, a mantra, it can be chanting, and sometimes the gaze can be looking downwards. And again, my head is going off balance. If the head goes off balance, so if you imagine that's my head, spine, all the way down to the sit bones, as soon as the head goes off balance, gravity is working against me. I'm not working in partnership with gravity, so I don't feel that sense of levity, that sense of elongation through the spine, that sense of being comfortably erect. So it does take practice. We can work with those elements of the ground, the gravity, the body's own internal inbuilt anti-gravitational mechanisms that have me float up. So it's like I become a conduit between earth and heaven. The eyes looking out about 10 feet in front, and that will help to balance the head. You might have your eyes slightly closed, and I can still close my eyes and still just have that gaze out in front. And what I find really helpful to give my body a feeling of internal space and external space is to think of spatial awareness, because we can get very concentrated, as I said, on the breath, on the mantra, on whatever we're using to anchor or focus the mind, that we can lose that sense of spatial awareness. So having a sense of space behind you, a sense of space around you, a sense of internal space which will allow the breath to flow through you, and maybe even having a sense of your thoughts are just above the head, so there's a sense of lightness and space above the head. Don't get attached to any one way of thinking it should be this way or it should be that way, or you need to have the perfect posture. The best posture is often, I say, the next one, and we never get stuck in any one particular posture. And we don't use the word posture in the Alexander technique because it implies we've got to start doing loads of things. This work is about undoing all those things that we think we ought to do in order to maintain and sustain a natural seated pose, or when we're standing. Just want to allow the body to undo and to just gently release. So we're all a work in progress. Be progressionists, not perfectionists, and don't get attached to thinking it's got to be this way or that way. When we just allow ourselves to be the way it is and the way it isn't, and there's a sense of acceptance, we're not goal orientated and we're not trying to get somewhere or do something, it becomes much easier, and it takes practice and patience. So yeah, drop me any comments if you have any good ideas about, or you've got any comments, and click subscribe if you want to find out more about the Alexander technique and how it can have you feel that natural sense of alignment, wholeness, integrity, oneness, unity, because that's what most people feel as a result of practicing the Alexander technique. We rediscover that natural inherent wholeness. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to sharing some more videos with you.